The situation developed as it did. I directed my national security team to monitor closely and report to me hour by hour. I instructed them to prepare for a range of scenarios. I also convened our key allies on a Zoom call to make sure we were all on the same page. We gave Putin no excuse to blame this on the West or to blame this on NATO. We made clear that we were not involved. We had nothing to do with it. This was part of a struggle within the Russian system. No matter what happened in Russia, we, the United States, would continue to support Ukraine's defense and its sovereignty and its territorial integrity.
In his first public comments about the mutiny in Russia, President Biden yesterday reiterating the United States government's support and its commitment to Ukraine. Meanwhile, Wagner head Yevgeny Prigozhin spoke yesterday for the first time since that attempted mutiny. In a long audio message, Prigozhin called the march of his soldiers toward Moscow a protest rather than a rebellion. Prigozhin says his Wagner mercenary group did not have the goal of toppling the regime and that it turned around in order to avoid bloodshed. Join us now live from Taipei, Taiwan, NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel. Richard, want to get to some of your new reporting on the ground there. Big developments in East Asia. But first, you've covered this war so closely. You know Russia so well. What do you make of the fallout from the Wagner Group's short-lived rebellion? How aggressive it was, how quickly it ended, and the comments from both Prigozhin and now this morning from Vladimir Putin?
So it's not entirely clear that it has ended. What we're seeing now are the two sides trying to write history, trying to shape the narrative. And you mentioned that long statement from Yevgeny Prigozhin, and he was outlining why he took this action. He said that his fighters, the roughly 25,000 or so Wagner troops who've been fighting inside Ukraine, many of them convicts who've been given a deal, fight on the front line, and if you survive, you get a pardon. He said that they had no choice but to rebel because they were being used as cannon fodder. They were being mistreated by the Ministry of Defense, and that ultimately they were given an order to disband and to be forced to be absorbed by the Ministry of Defense. And he said, why would we disband? Why should we join such an incompetent force that wasn't able to conquer Ukraine? We were having success. If we had been in charge, we would have won the war. And he said that they were marching to Moscow to prove a point that Russia has no security, that Russia is being led by a bunch of ineffective generals, and that he said once he proved the point and got close to Moscow, he stopped. Now, Putin, just even a short while ago, is saying something totally different. He's saying that this was a criminal insurrection, that it was no big deal, that he didn't have to bring any of his forces out of Ukraine to stop this insurrection, and that the security services were able to quickly brush this off, and that now peace, security, and law and order have been restored. But Putin's air of invincibility has clearly been punctured, and this is a pivotal moment for the future of Putin's regime. If you're a dictator, you have one responsibility, and that is to provide stability for the elites around you, the elites who depend on you to keep their power, to keep their money, to keep their privileges. And it seems like many of those elites now are having doubts, which is why Putin is going to great lengths to say that he's still in charge, that this was no big deal, even though Prigozhin is continuing to try and paint a different narrative. So this is not, I don't think this is quite over yet.
It was the ease with which the Wagner Group strolled into some of the key strategic cities of Russia that surprised so many people, and probably Putin himself. So, Richard, what is your sense of how this impacts the war in Ukraine, if it does at all? We just heard President Biden yesterday saying that the United States remains committed to Ukraine, that it had nothing to do with the Wagner Group's operation inside of Russia. How does this touch the war in Ukraine? What does it mean there?
Well, a very senior Ukrainian official told me as this was happening that it was too good to be true. Now you have 25,000 of the most battle-hardened forces removed from the battlefield. You have confusion within the ranks of the military establishment. You have doubts about Vladimir Putin. So this is an enormous shot in the arm, an enormous advantage for this new offensive, which is being launched right now, an offensive that has been having a difficult start. I spoke not long ago with the president of Ukraine, and President Zelensky in the interview was clearly discouraged about how the offensive, which is only about 2 weeks old right now, was going. So to have this offensive underway and have your enemy fighting among themselves is a perfect scenario for Ukraine.
Richard, stay with us. We want to get to your reporting on Taiwan, where you are this morning. But joining us now, first senior correspondent for Yahoo News, Michael Weiss. He also is a contributing editor at New Lines magazine, where his latest piece is titled, "What the Hell Just Happened in Russia?" Michael, getting straight to the point here, recently interviewed a senior Estonian analyst with years of experience tracking Russia's military affairs. What did you learn there, Michael?
Thanks for having me on. Well, yeah, this analyst who we've called Carl, because he asked for anonymity for various reasons, is actually surprisingly just as confused as I am. One of the things that he noted was he's not quite buying this idea that Prigozhin and others are floating, that this was simply a mutiny to make a point, a protest, if you like. One of the things that happened in the course of this sort of vertiginous 24-hour, 48-hour period was Wagner shut down 6 aircraft. 5 of them were helicopters, including very elite electronic warfare helicopters and another transport plane, killing probably over 24 pilots and crew. So the Russian Air Force has taken pretty significant losses in this demonstration of political protest. The other thing that Carl mentioned is, why come within 120 miles of Moscow only to then turn around and go home? You know, if you wanted to make a real point through mutiny, taking the entire city of Rostov-on-Don, which is the headquarters of the Southern Military District, the military command for Russia's war as it's prosecuted in the 5 quote-unquote annexed territories it's claimed since 2014, including Crimea. Doing that would have been sufficient. So I think there's still a lot here that we simply do not know, including, by the way, the fate of Wagner. So the Ministry of Defense says we're disarming them and disbanding them, and yet the reporting I've seen suggests they still have plenty of weapons, and they're even still recruiting mercenaries.
Hey, Michael, it's Jonathan. So let's talk about how Ukraine might be able to take advantage. You're so plugged in with what's happening over there in Kyiv. As Richard just noted, the counteroffensive off to a bit of a sluggish start by Zelensky's own admission, but it's in early stages, and they have said this one was going to be slower than what we saw last year. What's the sense as to how they think they can press their advantage with, frankly, Russia in disarray?
Well, look, if Wagner is taken off the chessboard completely, as Richard said, that is a huge shot in the arm. I mean, this is the elite of the elite fighting capacity that Russia has got in the field. And don't take my word for that. Kirilo Budanov, the head of military intelligence in Ukraine, he says these are the only real combat experienced fighters we face. The rest of the Russian military, he holds in as much disdain and contempt as Wagner does, right? So if that's the best case scenario for Ukraine, I would expect to see even better gains in this counteroffensive going forward. But let's just assume they're not completely taken off the chessboard. If some of these guys are incorporated into the conventional or regular Russian military units, you're still having this 5th column of people who are fanatically loyal to Yevgeny Prigozhin. I've seen evidence compiled by the Ukrainians that suggests they refer to him as Batya, which is dad or father. I mean, it almost operates like a cult. So if Wagner is somehow going to be blended into the larger war effort, Russia now faces a threat from its enemy in Ukraine, the Ukrainian army, but also from within. So I'm very, very curious to see how Putin tries to put a lid on this situation, which, by the way, only erupted because of his own stupidity, right? He created or allowed this mercenary corps to be created. And they have gone around, not just in Ukraine and Syria, but all over the world, including Africa, committing atrocities that, I mean, beggar belief. And now he's going to face this as an insurgency at home. Good luck to him.
And now trying to frame it somehow as a victory for his troops in that speech just a few minutes ago. Contributing editor at Newsline magazine, senior correspondent for Yahoo News, Michael Weiss, thank you as always for helping us put this into some perspective.